Hey everybody, Billy Bob here, and it's Monday morning, Quarterback Monday, college football edition. So, first and foremost, got to have one of these while you're doing the show. A big, beautiful Billy Bob Bud Light, just right in a slim can. I had a slim can burlap koozie. Might as well start it off. Everybody follow along, or if iced tea's your thing, or coffee, whatever, get after it. Water. All right, so we're going to start out with injuries today. There were a number of significant injuries in college football over the weekend, and some will affect teams more than others, starting with Dylan Raiola, the quarterback at Nebraska, done for the year, broken tibia. We've got Justice Haynes, the leading rusher, actually 122 yards a game, the leading rusher in Group 4, or Power 4 for the Stinkerines, the Wolverines. Okay, I'll go easy. I know. Look, I am not trash talking. Justice Haynes, the Wolverines' foot injury, he was out for the Purdue game, but now it's said that he has to have foot surgery, and there is no timeline for his return. So he could be done. He could be back in a few weeks. But, there's only effectively, 4 weeks left in the season? 4. By the way, speaking of 4, let's go to 2 weeks from this past Saturday. Ohio State plays UCLA at home, and the game has been announced as a 7:30 game. Now, I think that might be the first 7:30 game in November outside, and the playoff games are in December, by the way. So, seems to me, I've been to a couple late games in November, but I thought they were 3:30 games. Just seemed like they were 7:30 games because it was dark almost from the start, because they were kind of gray and cloudy and all that. So, I digressed. Here we go. Iowa State, Benjamin Bradmer, he collapsed on the field after a hard hit. And then he went to the hospital, observation, and he's okay. That's the good news. Let's see, what else do we have here? Dallas Wilson, wide receiver for the Florida Gators, out for the year. Louisville running back Isaac Brown, going to miss some significant time, as well as Wisconsin running back Dylan Jones, like they need more injuries, and center Jake Renfro, all expected to miss significant time. So Dallas Brown, wide receiver of the Gators, he had a foot injury. Isaac Brown, Louisville running back, lower leg injury. And then actually the Wisconsin running back Dylan Jones and the center Jake Renfro, they're done. Season's over for them. Georgia had a couple defensive guys hurt. Defensive lineman Jordan Hall out for a while, maybe the season with a knee injury. It says sometime, so sometime could be maybe he gets back for the playoffs. Who knows? Linebacker Chris Cole, he's expected to be back pretty soon, and defensive back DeMello Jones. His injury isn't quite as bad as they thought, so he'll probably be back pretty quick. Miami Hurricanes, C.J. Daniels, wide receiver, cornerback O.J. Frederick, expected to be out a couple weeks. Doesn't bode well for Miami. By the way, Miami in November, or maybe I should say Mario Cristobal in November, is 4-9. So 4-9 or 4-10. I heard both today. I don't know if they included the game against SMU or not. So, and then running back Mark Fletcher Jr., he's questionable. He left the game with some type of injury. He doesn't say. I told you Justice Haynes undergoing foot surgery here, so he is done for a while. Let's stay in the state of Ohio right now. Let's see. Some game notes from the Penn State game. So Urban Meyer rang the victory bell, and you got to ring it 9 times in the beginning, right? 1 for every national championship. Carnell Tate topped 100 yards for the 4th time in 6 games. Jeremiah Smith, 3rd time this season. It was the 2nd time both Tate and Smith topped 100 yards receiving in the same game. Bo Jackson went over 100. Ohio State, 480 yards, the most Penn State allowed since the 2023 Peach Bowl loss to Ole Miss. And then Penn State, the 200 yards that they gained, that was the fewest yards they've gained since a 2018 loss to the Wolverines. So also, this is the last time the Buckeyes will play Penn State till 2028. So that's the end of a 33-game streak where they played each other every year. And so Ohio State's won the last, we'll skip that. So the Buckeyes did have a couple injuries also. Luke Montgomery, Tegris Shabola, both left the game in the 4th quarter with injuries. We're going to move this up here a little bit. Hold on one sec. Gabe Van Sickle and, I didn't do that. So, yeah, Montgomery and Shabola both hurt, left the game, 4th quarter. Gabe Van Sickle, Jake Cook replaced him, and that was the end of that for the game. So, looked like Arch Manning was back and healthy. He played pretty well. And then we know, by the way, I said on Saturday that Penn State had lost their games, 4 games by a total of 13 points. Well, then they turn around and they lose, 38-14 by 24. So that almost, no, it didn't quite double what they lost by. But, Ohio State now, this year is only 1 game where they have not beat the spot. And that is highly unusual. I may have said that in other videos. But Ohio State typically is only about maybe 40% against the spread. So this year they're 7-1. So that tells you a little something. I don't know what it tells you because they're not scoring in the 50s, right? Not like Indiana, who's playing well. But they had an injury too, that's right. Elijah Surratt, their leading wide receiver, now, he left the game with a hamstring. It said it was a tightening hamstring. Didn't say he pulled it. So maybe it was out of the quote-unquote abundance of caution that they took him out of the game. But they did. They had a couple other guys injured, but they played. So, that's the way that went. See, is there anything other notable from the game on Saturday, Ohio State? Well, other than Julian Sayin completing 20 out of 23 passes for 316 yards and 4 touchdowns. Passed it around a little bit. Carnell Tate caught 1, Jeremiah Smith 2, and Ben Christian caught his first touchdown pass as a Buckeye. So congratulations to Ben. Let's see here. And then we go down out to Utah, and the Utah Utes in Rice-Eccles Stadium. They took care of the Cincinnati Bearcats. The Bearcats, they struggled. They were without their top running back, Evan Pryor. Sorsby, quarterback, who's been excellent all year long, 11 out of 33. That's not good. 11 out of 33, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and Utah held the ball for over 40 minutes in that game. That's a lot of time, and it's now you understand why the Cincinnati defense gave up 45 points, 21 of which were in the third and fourth quarters. So the Bearcats now have their second loss of the year, but they're still only 5-1 in the Big 12. And matter of fact, Utah is 4-2 in the Big 12. So the Bearcats are right in it still to play in the Big 12 championship game. Let's see. Indiana, their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, didn't have a great game. I mean, by his standards, 14 out of 21. Good as far as completion percentage, but only 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But they made up for it by running the ball, 367 yards on the ground. Now, that's a lot of yards, and it's by a lot of guys. Keelan Black, 110 yards. Roman Hemby, 88 yards. Kobe Martin, 80 yards. Alberto Mendoza, who actually is a quarterback. That's Fernando's little brother, I believe. And he had 1 run for 53 yards. So I don't know where that was in the game. That might have been later in the game, my guess, because he would have come in as a backup. But Indiana takes down the Terrapins, Maryland, in Maryland, 55-10, and they scored 35 points. They outscored Maryland 35-7 in the second half. So, at this point, we're on a collision course, but, there's games to go. Now, the Hoosiers don't have a great schedule, and what I mean by great, they're not playing any ranked teams that I know of down the stretch. And, of course, the Buckeyes play Purdue and UCLA, which was just announced as a 7:30 game. My brother Foxy Bob and I are going to that game. Woo! I don't think I've been to a 7:30 game in November. Oh, we did talk about that just a minute ago, didn't we? Well, we'll talk about it again, and maybe again, and maybe again. So it's my right. My show, my right. Right? Right. Let's see what else we got here. Penn State, Ohio State, I told you about that. I did. So here, one thing I wanted to talk about, and I couldn't really find the stats. I tried Googling it, searching. I was trying to find out how many yards Penn State gained in the second half. And here's the way I had to really go look at it. I had to go and look at series by series. So third quarter, Penn State, 16 yards on one series. Next series, 2 yards. So that's 18, right? The next series, minus 11. So now we're down to 7 yards. And then the last series of the game that they had the ball, they gained 68. So that's a total of 75 yards total offense second half. And that 12 plays, 68-yard drive ended in an interception in the end zone by Caleb Downs. Kenyatta Jackson Jr. had one of his best games. I would say probably his best game of the year. And, the game went over, and the Buckeyes covered, as I said. So, let's see what we got here. What's that? Told you about Mendoza. Let's just go down here. We'll stay in the top 25. We'll just rock and roll. That Florida-Georgia game, a lot closer, I'm sure, than Georgia was thinking. 24-20. They outscored. Basically, it was tied at the half, and Georgia outscored them by 4 points in the fourth quarter. Gunnar Stockton really had a good game. He's becoming a big time quarterback, or a prime time, crunch time, whatever you want to call it, quarterback. 20 out of 29, 223 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ole Miss ran over South Carolina here. North Carolina State. I did not think North Carolina State was going to beat Georgia Tech. I just didn't think that was going to happen. But North Carolina State at Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh, they kind of rolled 48-36. I guess 12 points in today's world's rolling, right? Texas held on. They got a big lead, and they held on as Vandy scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to make that thing tight. Three-point win by Texas, 34-31. Miami, their $4 million, whatever he is, I don't know the true numbers. That's the rumor, right? And we know all about rumors. But the rumor is Carson Beck's a $4 million man. Threw 4 interceptions last week. This week he throws 2 more. One of it a crucial time in overtime. Miami's got the ball down tight, potential score. Beck throws the pick. They get no points out of it. SMU goes and scores with their first possession OT. They win the game 26-20. And so it goes. Notre Dame, they were playing a woeful, a 1-7 Boston College. Now, 25-10. I said to my buddy Phil, 25-10. There used to be a world where a 15-point win was a pretty good win. Not so much anymore. Notre Dame outscored BC 13-3, 10 points. So this game was tight. This game was tight going into, at one point in the third quarter, it was 12-10. And so Jeremiah Love had a big run at the end of the game, 94-yarder. He had another nice game, although he had a 94-yard run, and then the other 16 carries, he gained about 42 yards. So Boston College held them in check pretty much until that last run. Texas Tech, they continue. They're 5-1 in the Big 12, and they beat Kansas State 43-20. Oklahoma ekes it out over Tennessee, the Volunteers in Neyland Stadium. They're in Knoxville. Oh, what else? Not LSU. LSD. LSU, by the way, LSU and Alabama had a bye, and now they play each other this week. I believe that game's in Tuscaloosa. So we'll see how LSU does with their interim, it's his last name, Wilson, their interim head coach. Louisville keeps on rolling. They beat Va Tech. They're 7-1, 4-1 in the ACC. And Virginia keeps on rolling. They're 8-1 and 5-0 in the ACC, which brings me to, we're going to skip over a couple. Oh, that game's not even in the top 25. SMU, right? SMU, is that right? Yeah, no, SMU beat Miami. Who the hell? Oh, Duke. Yeah, Duke beat Clemson like 46-45. Dabo is losing his mind on the sidelines with the defense. I mean, granted, sometimes you just gotta let them know what you think. So he was loud on the sidelines and definitely not happy, right? But Clemson, they're, what are they, 3-5, 3-6, 3-5, I think. Woo. Purdue and the Blue, the Wolverines, they played that game at the Big House, and that was a close game. Now, the Wolverines were playing without Justice Haynes, but their backup dude, their kind of co-running back, Jordan Marshall, he did himself proud. He reminds me a lot of Blake Corum, size-wise, speedy, 25 carries, 185 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Jordan Marshall. And they needed each and every one of those because, as my buddy Dusty Goldie will tell you he's a huge Wolverine fan, but he calls Bryce underwhelming. So he had 13 out of 22, 145 yards, and an interception, no touchdowns. That game, Purdue outscored the Wolverines 9-7 in the second half, 21-16 final. So, but you know what? Whether you win ugly or you win looking spiffy, you win. There's still 7-2 overall and 5-1. That's the Wolverines I'm talking about here. 5-1 in the Big Ten, 7-2 overall on a collision course for the final game of the year. And then USC tops Nebraska. That was kind of the battle of who's going to stay relevant, right? Who's going to be relevant? They both had 2 losses. And what I mean by relevant is still an outside chance of making the CFP, the college football playoff. USC 6-2, 4-1 in the Big Ten, so they still got a shot to go to the championship game, although there's some other teams that would need to lose because there's 2 teams that have 0 losses in the Big Ten, and that's Indiana and Ohio State. 4 teams, I think, have 1 loss. USC outlasts Nebraska 21-17, and as I said in that game, Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback, broken tibia, out for the rest of the year. So that's about what I got for college football. I'm trying to think if there's something else I should tell you. Oh, the North Dakota State Bison, they won their game in the Fargo Dome. I think they had a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So that was pretty sporty. That was a really good kickoff return for a touchdown. So we'll talk about the NFL tomorrow. Whew, there's some ugliness to talk about tomorrow. And we'll talk about, I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll talk about what's going to happen later this week, although it appears like maybe we'll do a live broadcast from Captain Kurtz on Saturday. It's a 1 o'clock game against Purdue in West Lafayette, but I'll let you know for sure. America, land of the free because of the brave. Stay focused, America. Billy Bob, peace out.